Okay, so judging off last week and this week, I think White Fox agrees with me, with the sentiment being the instant September starts, it's time for spooky season, because my god, these last two episodes have been particularly spooky. But with that said, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to our weekly ReZero Season 2 discussion video. Today we're here to talk all about Season 2, Episode 9, I Love You. There's a lot of love to go around here. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that sub button if you're not subscribed already. And hey, if you're already subscribed, consider hitting that join button, because that's right, I got buttons for everybody. But without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so we actually have quite a bit to talk about. Now, lately I've been actually bringing the character designs to the front of the episodes, like to the front of the videos, and then sort of talk about everything else afterwards, because y'all know that I love me some character design, I love me some color symbolism and all that jazz, and you guys have been responding to it pretty well. So guess what? It's time for design time! This time we got 3 designs to go over, kinda sorta 4, but we'll get to that 4th one when we get there. But yeah, we got 3 to talk about right off the pop. And we're going to talk a little bit about the characters too as we go through their designs. So we got to talk, of course, about Typhon, the Witch of Pride. I'm not sure if it's Typhon or Typhoon. There's not two O's, so I think it's Typhon. Whatever. The Witch of Pride, Typhon, Minerva, the Witch of Wrath, and Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony. And we're going to start with Typhon. So the first thing that jumps out to me about most character designs is the eyes. Like, that's usually what I gravitate towards. And with Typhon here, with the Witch of Pride, with our girl here, she's rocking these magenta eyes. Now, as the Witch of Pride, this actually makes a hell of a lot of sense to me, especially given the rest of her design, but also given her title. Purple being a sort of mysterious color, you'll see purple pretty much used throughout all the characters, symbolizing some spirituality as well as mystery, right? Purple's a mysterious color, has a sense of religious themes to it, sort of like spiritual themes to it. So that being used for basically all the witches does make a hell of a lot of sense, right? The witches are mysterious. They do have spiritual like ties to magic and such. So yeah, of course they would be. At the very least, all of them have some semblance of purple, whether it's a lot or a little, there's usually some form of purple in those designs. So magenta being a sort of mix of both red and purple hues makes a lot of sense. Red, of course, being a confident color, so of course it'd be mixed in there. Pride, confidence tend to go hand in hand quite a bit. So the magenta eyes, I thought were a perfect choice for the character, and honestly, everything about the character, like when I first saw her, like, because the way it's introduced, like, you don't know that it's not Daphne right away, so you're like, okay, so who is this? And then eventually you find out, like, oh, this is the Witch of Pride. Oh, okay, whoops. Because when she gets introduced, I'm like, nothing about this character screams gluttony. Nor does anything about this character really scream pride either. So I'm a little bit, like, baffled by her design. I love it, but it's just so, like, that's not what I expected, but I think that's Tape trying to screw a little bit with your expectations. You expect, like, the Witch of Pride to be, like, intense and overbearing and insane, and it's like, nah, it's this kid. But of course it's a kid. Kids are hella prideful, right? So it's like, it makes sense, but it's also doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it takes what you expect it to be and sort of flips it on its head in a fun way. The hair being short and green, honestly, like, I actually kind of get more of an earthy kind of vibe from this character with the green hair, the white and blue outfit, and like the flower crown. Like, sort of reminds me of like a chibi kid version of like Earthbound or something, you know, like it just like the earthy colors of like green and blue. Everything about this character is meant to show you that they're probably the youngest of the witches, so I think the green hair is just sort of meant to further like push that whole like she's green, she's inexperienced, she's not quite as well knowledged as the other witches, right? She's not quite as experienced as them, she's inexperienced, she's green, you know, like when you're green on the job, you're new, you're not quite as well versed as the other ones. So maybe that's what the hair is for. Plus the fact that it's short kind of further pushes, like, not that short hair immediately means kiddish, but you know what I mean. Like short hair typically kind of associated with kid characters. The whole blue and baby blue flower crown, I think, is a total nod to baby blue eyes, which is a flower otherwise known as nemophilias. Now, I had to do a bit of research for this, so thank you to A to Z Flowers, which is a cool little website that sort of like runs you down different types of flowers and gives you sort of like some symbolism of what they could mean. Also, fun fact about nemophilias, they are native to California, which is neat, but they're also found in Hitachi Seaside Park in Ibaraki, Japan. There's even like a whole like event in spring called the Nemophilia Harmony, where like all of the flowers bloom around the same time. And here's a picture of it. It looks friggin' pretty. And they do tend sort of remind me of the flowers that Typhon is wearing in her outfit. And the flowers themselves symbolize victory and success, things in which you can take pride in. As for the rest of the outfit, I think the fact that it's mostly white shows you this sort of like level of purity to the character. Like she is just like purely a prideful character, and the blue sort of like indicates a security in that pride. She doesn't really question herself. Like the blue, especially the fact that it's light, it's a sort of like serenity with oneself. So I feel like her character is basically just meant to show you like she's young, right? She's young, she's sort of inexperienced, but she's incredibly confident and just purely a prideful character. And we do kind of see that in some of her actions, especially when she first shows up. I'm like, who the hell is this? Like her speech pattern, I'll admit, a little grating, right? It's like, I don't really like the way this character talks. It's a little bit annoying. But then she starts to show you a bit of her personality, especially when she like tears Subaru's arm off, like, but it doesn't hurt or anything. She just kind of like is holding it, and he's like, what the hell? Like, and then he shatters. I'm like, this little psycho just broke my boy into pieces and is acting like it's nothing, right? Like, she's just like, yeah, you see what I did? That's cool, right? Like, she's like proud of what she's done. And that's, I totally fitted within the character. I actually really dig this character quite a bit. We should also talk about Minerva, who, oh my God, Minerva. Listen, y'all. Listen. Donna has my heart. Y'all know this. Donna has my heart. Krush has my heart. Minerva might also have my heart. A lot of the reason, like Ram and Rem too. Like a lot of like, and Amelia too. Like all these, like listen, man. ReZero got some top tier waifus, but they also got some top tier husbandos too. Don't be forgetting about Julius and Reinhard. Top tier husbandos like Roswell don't come around in just any show. Okay, this show's cast is like killing it, man. Every one of these characters either steals my heart because I just want to protect them, or steals my heart because like they be husbandos and waifus and shit. And with Minerva, there's a lot. Minerva's a lot as the Witch of Wrath, right? She's got a lot going on. With the eyes in particular, her eyes are sort of like aquamarine and blue. Like the if I'm remembering correctly, because I don't have a picture of her in front of me right now, it's aquamarine on the bottom of the iris and then blue on the top. It's a little weird looking, but like it sort of works for the character. It's basically aquamarine and blue mixed together. And again, I think that's a sort of like to me, it sort of gives me vibes of the ocean, where the ocean can be calm, but it's also completely unpredictable. And I think that that's sort of the hint that they're trying to give you with this character, is like, you can get a sense for who this character is, but since they're the Witch of Wrath and are clearly just like off the wall insane, you're never quite sure which character you're gonna get here with Minerva. And yeah, I can kind of get that vibe. She's even with her hair, it's like this long blonde hair, right? But the ponytail's not quite in the center where it should be. It sort of looks like me when I try to put my hair up, right? It's just sort of like it goes to one side, so the ponytail actually kind of goes a little bit to the left. And also very interesting in her hair are pink and blue hairpins. The pink and blue are basically going to be a motif going throughout most of the rest of the outfit, right? There's a lot of pink and blue, mostly white, but lots of pink and blue and a decent amount of purple as well. But with the pink and blue hairpins, there's these sort of like heart hairpins. The pink and blue hairpins, I think, are meant to show that she feels a sense of responsibility, since she's kind of acting like a magical girl, right? Like she feels like she has to cleanse the world, like with her wrath, right? She feels this responsibility to cleanse the world. But the pink shows that she's maybe a little immature, right? Like she has great intuition, but maybe she's a little bit like immature. She has that like sort of like unintentionally playful demeanor where she's not quite like she's just a little bit immature, not quite using her strength and maybe the way she should, especially given the fact that she's like just a little bit too much with her intensity. And again, there's a splash of purple in her design because that is a motif for all the witches, right? She has this dress that is like mostly purple. And again, as I already said, mystery, spirituality, sort of like a royalty type thing. Because again, purple also representing royalty. If you didn't know, back in the Wayback Machine, if we jump in the Wayback Machine and we go back into our own history, purple was normally only a color allowed to be worn by royals. So I do think that, again, shading the witches in like this uniform of like some splash of purple makes a lot of sense. The fact that Minerva has a mostly purple dress, that again does add up with the rest of the witches. But it's more interesting to me is the fact that the purple dress is worn underneath this like white overcoat with matching white thigh-high boots, and she looks like a magical girl. Like, she looks like she's straight out of a Sentai or something, like straight up magical girl. Mostly white, and I think the white is meant to show this sort of like innocence to the character, right? Like, she is like the witch of wrath. Like, she's like intense and crazy, and like she'll try to mess you up, right? She'll give you a hard time. But there's an innocence to this character, and you can see that immediately, right? When she shows up, you'd think that she'd be like ready to whoop Subaru's ass, but instead she fixes the guy. Like, everything she's doing out of an innocent nature, I think. And again, I'm sure that this will later be proven wrong because they're, the witch cult, so I'm sure they're eventually going to get up to something nefarious. But judging off what I know about the character immediately, that's the vibe that I'm getting. I would also like to point out that when she punches things, it lets off hearts, like she's in Tekken or something, right? Like, again, like she's a magical girl. When she punches, there's punch effects, right? Like, there's hearts that bounce off. And also, gotta point out the fact that, is that an unintentional JoJo's reference? Because I am absolutely positive she just punched my man back to normal. You know who else punches things back to normal? Crazy Diamond! This girl just do-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra'd my boy back to normal. This girl just Josuke'd my boy back to normal. That's a JoJo's reference. I don't care what you say, which makes her a best girl, which makes her top tier waifu material. She just Crazy Diamond my boy back to normal. You can't even tell me that didn't just happen. And last of the new characters that we gotta talk about, let's talk about Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony, which admittedly, I don't have as much to say. She is like, what you see is what you get, but what you see is insane. Let's talk about her eyes, right? The eyes are the window to the soul. So what are her eye color? Oh wait, her eyes are covered in bandages, so you are not allowed to see my girl's eyes. In fact, Donna even says if you can avoid it, don't make eye contact with this particular witch, right? She says don't make eye contact with Daphne if you can help it. And I love that Subaru says like, well that'd be rude. It's like, God, Subaru, there are more pressing issues right now. But yeah, so we can't see her eyes, so I'm not quite sure what her eye color are, but maybe like blinding the eyes is a reference to maybe like she, like, I don't know, is like blind to her own nature. That one's a bit of a stretch, but like maybe that is what it is. Like her own sense of gluttony has sort of blinded her to the cruelty of gluttony. That could be part of it. Her hair is gray with pigtails, which unfortunately I don't have a hell of a lot to say other than like, looks neat. And the bodysuit I find interesting. So she's basically wearing this like full bodysuit, which is black, but with like a white center. And then these sort of like purple highlights with hints of green. Now again, I'm not gonna go over the purple. You already know what purple is about. Black, I guess, is maybe to indicate a sense of death, right? Since with gluttony comes death. We've seen what happens with the rabbits in the show and the white whale, right? So we know that with the monsters of gluttony, with the three great maw beasts, comes death, right? So I think maybe that's what the black is meant to represent. Like, that's my best guess anyway. And the hints of green, I think, is interesting as well. There's a greediness to green, right? Like, there's a sense of greediness to the shade green, especially the one that is used here. And, being gluttonous is being greedy in a sense. So I feel like maybe that's what the little shades of green are meant to sort of hint towards. And the white, like the white center of the bodysuit is also kind of interesting to me. Like maybe like the sort of pure nature, like she is purely a gluttonous character. There's a lot of, actually, now that I think about it, it's not just purple, it's also white that a lot of these characters seem to have as well, all the witch characters. So there's like a mysterious nature to them and something like a sense of like unity and something nefarious to them, hence the purple. But also like they are what they are. There's like a purity to a lot of these character designs. There's a lot of purity to these characters in general and what they do and what they represent. And Daphne is like the purest sense of gluttony, so I guess that does actually make a lot of sense. Also, I don't know if you noticed yet, but Daphne rides around a giant friggin' sarcophagus that has like crab legs. I have nothing to say about that other than that's weird. That's really weird. It's hella weird. And Subaru and her have quite the confrontation, like this girl is truly gluttonous, and the way that she just like saunters up, and like she's all weird and like basically like locked away in the sarcophagus, but like when it opens, she like sniffs the air and says like, "Oh, I could just eat you up," but it's like, "Oh, I'm scared and I'm confused." I don't like this anymore. Like when this is a lot. Like this whole scene where they introduce all the witches back to back. I'm like, this is a lot. I'm scared and confused, and I just want to go home. Like I'm so scared, but I'm also intrigued, especially by Minerva. But like I'm like all sorts of like just please, can we just go back to Donna? Can we just go back to Donna? But before we do, I also would like to give Daphne a nickname, and that nickname being Mama Monster. Because yeah, as Subaru calls her mother, I was like, well, there's her nickname right there. The monster, the mother of monsters. She's Mama Monster. Or Eve, if you're a big Supernatural fan, but Mama Monster, I think, is a little bit more unanimous. And she, like, especially when he says, like, 400 years is long enough for those monsters to run loose. I'ma wipe them off the face of the earth. And Daphne gets pissed and is like, yeah, you can try. And it's like, oh, Subaru, why'd you say anything, dude? Like, listen, man, I appreciate the sense of pride, and I'm absolutely positive so did Typhon, but, like, let's try to keep our head in the game, my dude, and let's try to keep our head attached for that matter. But enough about all the other characters, because, again, it's a lot. Let's actually talk a little bit about Donna. I love Donna. I absolutely adore this character. Listen, Krush is my waifu forever and always, but man, Donna and Minerva be out here making plays for top waifu, and it's like, there's so many top waifus in the show, I can't keep track anymore. Like, I can't keep track of the amount of, like, not even, like, take waifu out of it, right? Take waifu out of it. Just the amount of characters who are intriguing, despite how you feel about them, no matter what you think, they're all insanely intriguing. And that's the skill of Tape, man. I've said before in other videos and just streams and stuff that I'm the kind of dude who prefers character over story, or at the very least characters pushing the story forward, not so much story pushing the characters forward. And with ReZero, even though the whole point of Subaru's journey is that he's fighting against destiny, it never really feels like the story is thrusting characters into certain positions because the characters always feel like they're making choices that lead there. You know what I mean? Like, it always feels like for Tape, characters are front and center, and that's what he really wants to work on, is making you give a shit, making you care about these characters, and it absolutely succeeds. I think the man is a straight-up genius with these characters, and Donna's a perfect example. We've barely had Donna for, like, we've only had Donna for, like, what, like 9 episodes, and I'm here for it, right? Like, every time Donna shows up, I'm like, yes, please, thank you very much. Donna and Subaru have this whole discussion about, like, how Donna's actually pissed with the Witch of Envy for putting Subaru through Return by Death, which I'm like, that's my girl right there. They have such a great dynamic, her and Subaru. Like, I truly, truly love the dynamic between Donna and Subaru. It's just legitimately sweet without feeling forced. Like, it's just genuinely really fun. Like, when he says, like, you are the most normal of all the witches, and she, like, happily makes him, like, some new treats and tea, and Subaru, like Subaru's like, I'm good. But just the fact that he's like, I could really read you like a book just now. And it's true. It's like, she's just like, oh, you flatter me, but, like, that's, like, you know, like, you're just being silly. Meanwhile, she's, like, making new tea and treats for him because he said something nice to her, but she's trying to play it off like, nah, that didn't mean anything to me. I'm the Witch of Greed. I don't need flattery from a mere mortal. Like, you stop. But meanwhile, she's, like, making him all this nice stuff. She's just the best. I love Donna so much. And she's the one who friggin' gets Subaru the information he needs from Daphne, right? Like, she's the one who suggests, like, we should switch places with me and Daphne, but just so you know, like, it might get crazy. And as we already went over, it absolutely does. But this does end up giving Subaru the information he needs, right? Like, he knows now that in order to stop the Great Rabbit, which is what you call the collective of rabbits that ate the shit out of our boy, and also ate the hell out of everybody, which I did not know after watching the episode. I thought everybody ran out, and the comments are like, oh, my sweet summer child. It was not that innocent. But yeah, so I was like, oh, damn. Like, Subaru took as long for that to click in as I did. But yeah, she lets my boy know, well, Daphne lets my boy know, but it's thanks to Donna, that in order to stop the rabbits, or the rabbit, the Great Rabbit, they're drawn to mana, right? So if you have a great magic user, you can use them as bait and then have all the rabbits charge in and then boom, wipe them all out in a single blow, right? Because you have to wipe them all out at once. You can't leave anything left over, otherwise they'll keep multiplying and just come back. So you have to take them all out in one go. And something I find interesting is the fact that it's the great maw beasts. Not just one, not just two, there's three. We've seen two. The white whale we've seen, the great rabbit we've seen, the black serpent we have not, and I am very concerned for my main boy Sun Woo, because that's gonna be difficult for him. If it's an actual gigantic snake, yeah, that's gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be like that whole arc where they go into like the spider forest in Kimetsu no Yaiba. Remember how difficult that was for me? I'm concerned for my boy Sun now. But we don't gotta worry about the serpent, at least not right now. The main focus is getting everybody out of there. And Subaru like realizes in this conversation with Donna, like, this is gonna be really hard. Because he's gonna have to deal with the great rabbit who has found its way to Sanctuary, and everybody's trapped in Sanctuary, so you gotta take the barrier down to get everybody out of Sanctuary, and you have to do that within the 4-day limit, otherwise Elsa will kill everybody in the mansion. This is gonna be very hard. There's also a really sweet scene too when Subaru like leaves Donna, and Donna's just like, you know what, for my payment, I'm gonna take the handkerchief that Petra gave you. And it's like this sweet little scene of her saying like, it symbolizes heartfelt concern, but also it's a recognition of Petra's existence, and also just flat out meddling as well, just because I can, basically. All right, so it's like, okay, now you can remember who she is and all the things that you talked about with Donna. But she also says like it's gonna get harder and harder to be invited to the tea party, so it's harder and harder each time. But you can still like find her in the trials, right? So it's like, okay, so if Subaru goes to if he has to talk to her, he can go through the trials to find her a little bit easier. But no tea party, so like what's even the point? No, but like, you know, it's a little bit easier to find her there. But interesting to me that as he starts to fade back into reality, Donna says if he does visit for tea a third time, there's something that she really needs to tell him. And then he wakes up. And I'm thinking, oh, good, okay, well, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. Well, Subaru, you better talk to Amelia and let's get going. And oh, Amelia's not here. And oh, everything's quiet. I don't like this. I don't like quiet in ReZero. Quiet means something bad just happened. And Subaru goes out, and there's this like weird shadow engulfing Sanctuary, and something's moving in the distance, and oh my god! Oh no! Oh no! No, 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 no! This was so creepy. That like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, in like, I don't have one of those ASMR mics, otherwise I'd be doing that shit right now, but oh, the audio mixing was creepy. Like, just like the way it was, oh, it was so creepy. It was very ASMR-ish, right? Where it's like, ooh, that's why I don't like ASMR. It just makes me creeped out. I don't like it. And like the way that she's like in your ears, you feel like Subaru, where she's like invading your mind, right? It's like, ooh, why are you saying I love you? I don't like this. I have so many theories, but I don't want to say them, and I'm really uncomfortable now. And this was the technically fourth character that I was going to talk about. And I tried, like, I brightened up my screen on my computer, but I'm like, you know what, man? I'm gonna just save it for when we actually see her. But I would like to point out that for the most part, the colors I can make out are purple and black, mystery and death, respectively. And that's Satella in a nutshell, isn't it? Because that's who that is. She is mystery and death. She is literally walking mystery and death. And just when things seem their bleakest, Lasagna Boy to the rescue! I'm still mad at you for what you did last week, but Lasagna Boy to the rescue! I was so happy to see Garf, man. I was like, oh my god, thank god, Garf's still alive. And like, the pair are trying to suss out what's going on, and we're at like an 11 out of 10 right now in terms of like pure, like, anxiety. I'm like, again, it's just anxiety. And I'm losing my mind. And all this basically leads up to Subaru realizing that Satella is heading for the mansion. And that's where they end the episode. Yeah, there's also a post-credit scene with my husbando. They throw friggin' Rosewall in this situation where he says something like really bizarre that I have to point out. He says, if you wish to walk through hell, I will gladly accompany you. Try not to make any mistakes next time, Natsuki Subaru. Try not to make any mistakes next time. Mistakes next time? Yeah, you know what? I'm not even gonna go into that. I'm gonna let you stew on that, and we're gonna end the video here. What do you think that means? I think we all know what that means, but I'm gonna end the video here. But with that said, everybody, I am going to try to piece together the broken parts of my mind, and if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to boop that up snoot, and share if you care, and of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that link in the description to check out our Patreon page, and of course, the second way for just a little bit more is to hit that join button down there, just beside the sub button, to join the T Squadron that way, and get a nifty badge next to your name in both the comments and the premiere chats. And speaking of the premiere chats, you also get yourself some emotes that you can spam away in premieres, so if that sounds cool to you, consider checking that out. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. I'm gonna wrap up everything here. I have a stream to do later. We also stream, by the way, twitch.tv/JoJo Talks So Much. Come hang out if you want to be super cool. But yeah, I have to stream again after this, and I don't even know what I'm gonna talk about. My mind's just broken. But anyway, until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.